Hey, it's Jeff Hyman. Welcome to Startup Therapist, where we focus on the people part of startups. And we've got a fantastic guest today, my friend Andy Crestodina.
Hi, Jeff. Glad to be here.
How are you, Andy?
Very good.
It's good to see you. I know you do a lot of these conversations, but I think we're going to hopefully approach a couple of different topics that are a little less discussed. Andy, if you're not familiar, is the co-founder and strategy head of Orbit Media, which is a fantastic, award-winning, top-of-the-line web development, content development firm in Chicago. Did I describe that accurately, Andy?
And in a way that I'm grateful for. Thank you, Jeff.
And Andy's very modest, as you'll come to find out. I think Orbit's built, over 1,000 websites, something like that?
Yep, for sure.
So to say that you're qualified to talk about web development, content strategy, and the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make would be a safe statement.
I hope so. We'll see.
Good. So what I thought I'd do, Andy, is we talk about two things. I'd like to talk a bit about you as entrepreneur building Orbit, and then we'll spend the bulk of the time talking about web development, content development strategies for entrepreneurs.
Sure.
Let's start about building the firm. So I'd love to hear a bit about the history of Orbit, how you built the firm, toughest times that you faced. I understand you bootstrapped the company, and how many employees do you have now?
36.
Which makes you probably one of the larger web firms in Chicago.
I guess for that category in this market, sure.
So tell us a bit about kind of how you got started.
Yeah, so it was almost a passion business in the very beginning. I was doing very well as an IT recruiter in the 90s, but it was not motivating for me because you didn't get to make anything. You don't build anything as a recruiter. You just kind of help people find different jobs. Someone changed jobs, and that's success for you. I wanted to make something that I could point at and say, I did that. So, this worked. So I partnered with a friend from high school, my roommate from college, and we basically just started building sites together with just 2 laptops and a phone. I mean, it's an industry where there's a very low barrier to entry, and even though we were just starving at the time, and I was living off a 401k and he was living off a credit card, we didn't really care. We were just so happy to be able to do what we wanted to do. So it just time went on, and we just kept going, and as we kept building up the reputation and the audience and the client list, then eventually we shifted away from doing mostly outsourced work for advertising agencies and toward doing more work for our clients directly.
So before you get to that, how do you get those first few clients? Before you have a reference list, before you have testimonials, before you have great work to show people, how do you get the first few customers?
That's one of the most important questions. So what we did was we had a little bit of work that we could show from Barrett's previous life. Like, he had been doing web since like 97, 98. So we put that on these little CD-ROMs. Remember those like business card size CD-ROMs? And I made 50 cold calls to 50 advertising agencies, knowing that an agency might be able to use us more than once. Most people, they get a website, they don't really need you for 4 or 5 years. So the agencies were clients of clients. So we decided to go to the try to be a reseller. 50 calls, got 10 callbacks and meetings, and then got 2 clients from those 10. So the percentage was good enough. The market was still okay in those days, but after that, 9/11 and the tech bubble bursting and Enron and a million other things happened, which made it very slow.
Why did those 2 agencies take a shot on 2 kids in a new firm? I mean, other than great talking and showmanship, how did you get those 2 to take the chance? Getting first customers is a really hard thing for many of our viewers.
It is. It takes a lot of personal confidence in what you're doing. You've got to really believe in what you do.
So they're buying you as much as what you can do.
Absolutely. And they also had a lot of urgency to make a decision and actually to move forward with some approach because they had nothing. These are actually, to this day, a lot of agencies don't have good technical capabilities. They don't have the database powerhouse or media capabilities. So they needed it, and we could do it. We built confidence through face-to-face meetings, and just got started with those few just one at a time.
Got it. And so then 2001 happened, September 11th. What happened to your business and the firm during that time?
Well, we were all just in shock. I mean, we just passed the anniversary here, and we just all kind of sat around in coffee shops just looking at each other like, what's going on in the world? It was just, business-wise, I mean, it was terrible. B2B spending really just completely dried up. There was a lot of things where we just wondered if anything was going to happen. But interestingly, we didn't really care that much because we were just happy to be able to, still survive enough to pay the rent and get by with the few clients that we had. So even though things were very low for us, morale was not as low as you might think because we had low risk and low overhead, and we were able to kind of bootstrap it as we went along.
And you hadn't raised outside capital, so you didn't have the pressure of outside investors.
Nothing like that.
Got it.
But fast forward to 2008, now there's a small dip that creates a lot of stress. I mean, a small dip relative to 2001, for us at least, revenue-wise. That created a lot of stress because we had, team members. There's like 30 people here, and like, how do we pay the bills? And these people rely on us. We cover their health care and all this other stuff. So, still never had any debt really, or outside capital. But interestingly, 2008 was a more stressful time with a smaller dip than 2001. We went almost down to zero, but we were still just kind of, happy to be independent.
Got it. You mentioned a couple times that you bootstrapped, you're independent. You must have thought about raising outside capital along this 15 years. Did you ever get close? Did you ever really pursue it? And if you didn't, why not?
I never really. I mean, I lack the background you have. I don't have, I don't know the industry from the of trying to keep going. I didn't have any real connections with any other people that would have allowed me to even entertain that option. Didn't have any connections. Yeah. It wasn't an option. I never considered it. I don't know that people would have likely been interested anyway, because outside capital for a B2B service firm and a relatively low margin, this business doesn't scale that well. I don't know many big web development firms that take money from outside because it's just not that appealing of an investment.
At the same time, you have your independence. You're able to make decisions. You're not beholden to any outside investors, which I'm sure has served you well, especially during those challenging times.
For sure. We stay independent. It's been a big blessing for us in the long run. I think I don't regret any decisions we've made.
And one of the important decisions you've made, which I'm fascinated by and might be useful for many of our viewers, is you made the decision to bring in an outside CEO. So, which I think is rare and amazing. So just to set the context, you're co-founder of the business with another individual, and you make the decision and you say, you know what, we want to step it up and bring in an outside CEO, and the three of you form the leadership team of the company. Tell us a little about the decision. How did you know that you were ready to do that or wanted to do that, and how has it worked out?
Well, it's a fun question to get from you, Jeff, because here you are, someone on the other side. You've been on the outside person.
I have, but nobody wants to hear from me. They want to hear from you.
Well, what it meant to us was that it allowed us to stay focused on our core skills. So I want to focus on marketing. I can grow a big audience. I can, definitely be the hustler that increases awareness and grow the top line. My partner, really more the hacker, right? Hackers and hustlers is the model for startups. He was the problem solver and the resources guy, and he would make it work. But where's the management skills? Where's the knowledge of finance? Where's the operational excellence? And where's the, how do you really build a team that becomes both more productive and higher morale at the same time? That's kind of a zero-sum game unless you're a gifted manager.
Yep.
Todd Gettelfinger is exactly that. The guy is brilliant. He knows the answers to all the questions before we even get to that challenge. It was just a matter of recognizing that this is going to be a huge catalyst for growth in the company, to take a ton of stress off and make sure that we're really framed to go to the next level, which could be a 50-person firm, a $10 million firm. We'll see. Was
there a day or a time or an event where you and your co-founder said, oh shit, we need to bring in some outside experience? Did something happen or to precipitate it?
It wasn't that obvious. It was a gradual thing because Todd started as a client, and then he became a consultant for us, and then he became kind of an in-house part-time management consultant or in a leadership role, and then finally as a full CEO. So it was a gradual thing. It just made more and more sense. It got to be stressful when he wasn't here.
Yep.
That's how you kind of know. It's
you actually
any
missed
relationship.
It. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
As soon as oh no, they're not here. This is awful. I think I really want this person in my life. So that's where we got to it, Todd.
So how has it played out? What has worked about it? How has it helped scale the business? And have there been any challenges with that kind of unique structure?
Sure. Well, when he first came on board, there were actually three partners. One was creative, one was technical, one was focused on service and sales. That was me, Barrett, and my former partner, Frank. Todd immediately recognized that this was not the ideal structure, that you needed to break it out into the two main services. At the time, we had another service, which was video production. Now they're operated on separate P&Ls, and you can actually see like what's making sense here. And it gradually allowed us to make better decisions about strategically what business we're in, what we want to focus on. Structural, that was a big thing.
Yep.
Next, he built a sales and marketing team. As soon as he did that, or the sales team, as soon as he did that, he freed up 20 hours of my week that I could actually take the actions that led to thought leadership, content marketing, the newsletter, writing a book, speaking at events. A million options opened up for me as soon as I magically had 20 extra hours a week of my life to take a leadership position. Finally, he put in a management layer. So it wasn't just me and my partner. We actually have a technical director, and we have a creative director, and we have a leader of the project management team. So there are. It was basically structural. It was foundational, and it freed up us to stay more focused on those things that were bigger opportunity.
So what do you say to an entrepreneur who's thinking about, who's hearing this, giving up your baby to a stranger, if you will? Most entrepreneurs would be a little bit nervous about that.
Well, it shouldn't. I don't think it should be as counterintuitive as it really is, right? Why is it so unusual? I think people need to ask themselves a few questions. One, is this really the ideal job? Is that really what you want to do in life? Is there some magic about those three letters, CEO, that's what you think you were born for?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. Secondly, if that is the job that needs to be done, are you the best person for it? Look at your strengths, look at your weaknesses, really ask yourself if that makes sense. Because there's a realistic chance that is not the most fun or that you're the best person for it. I don't know. I mean, it's a job like any job, as you know. Not always a great job.
Was there a time or a size when you noticed that you or your co-founder were starting to feel that way? Was it revenues, certain number of employees, where it changed from being the fun founder to the CEO management job?
Oh, a million little things that happen all the time. It's a hiring process that's risky, or you suddenly realize you don't have visibility into your finances, or there's day to day. It's got how do we measure results? How do we manage capacity? How do we know what our utilization is for different team members? Without really a steady hand on the wheel, it's possible to just go totally off the rails and make decisions that do not set you up for success. I have never done this before. Most of us have not.
Yeah, sure. By definition.
Right.
Okay, interesting. So that's the story of Orbit. Now, you happen to, having done 1,000 websites or more, you happen to have forgotten more about this stuff than we'll ever know about developing websites. So we'd like to spend a little bit of time on what you've learned, biggest mistakes that early stage companies make, what are the most important things that they need to do, those kinds of things, and I'll feed you through that. So why don't we start with biggest mistakes? So you see clients come in through your door all the time. I guess some are probably new websites and some are redoing their website. Is that fair?
Sure. Almost all of them are redesigns.
Redesigns. Okay. So I've got a website. I'm going to redesign it. What are the big mistakes I'm likely to make that a guy like you can keep me from making?
Well, here's two big ones. One of them, I just had a conversation with someone about this now. There are a lot of people that have trouble letting go at the very end, and they want to make their website perfect before they go live. It's a big mistake because no website is ever perfect. In fact, no website is ever finished. Here's a tip for everyone listening. The best time to launch a new website is the first day it's better than the old website.
That's
Launch
fair.
it immediately.
That's
right?
fair. Ready, fire, aim.
Why not?
Right?
Well, you're going to adapt it, right? It's a living, breathing thing. It's got a content management system. If you want to wordsmith that paragraph that's on the About Us page and to spend an extra month doing it, you just reduced your ROI. You would have gotten more value launching the site and making all those other pages better for that month instead of waiting to launch it for that day that you thought that it was done. Well, It's never done. It's a website.
Now, you said the day to launch it is when it's better than the previous website. How do we define better? How do we know objectively, not subjectively, because then you can get in a pissing contest for weeks, right, with everyone on the team and their opinions? How do we know?
Well, this is the other great thing that it's a perfect segue, because this is the mistake that a lot of people make, is they make decisions based on opinion. They have a gut feel, and there's a lot of marketing and branding and other types of content that are based on that. But really, the best decisions in what we do are based on data. It's based on evidence. So the two main goals of a website are to do, quite simply, just two things. One is get visitors, and two is get visitors to act. So that's usually about a search engine-friendly site that ranks for targeted key phrases and attracts an audience that is relevant to our solution for the world. The second thing is it inspires enough trust and it engages with the visitor, and it's simple enough, with low enough friction and few enough distractions that the visitor actually takes an action and becomes a lead. So that's the measurement of a great website. Does it, one, attract visitors, and two, inspire visitors to take an action?
And what you recommend is that the individual, the company, is testing the new website against metrics from the first website, and as soon as they see both of those metrics, then they flip it and turn on the switch?
No, I mean, normally you're going to launch the new website with maybe some of the same content as the old site has, so you know that's a controlled, that's your control group. The design might be better. Maybe it's more search. Maybe it's more mobile friendly than the old site. Maybe you've got better focus on the keywords. You can tell it by looking at it, like the site is using words that our audience is using to search. You did some keyword research in the process. Maybe it's an easier site to update because it's a newer version of a better CMS than you had before. There's empirical things that you know immediately, like, wow, we could just launch our site and it's gonna look better on everyone's phones as soon as we do.
Right.
But once it's live, you're going to be making decisions based on its effect on those two numbers, total traffic and the conversion rate.
And that's it. That's all it comes down to.
That's it. Money. That's it.
Yeah. You make it sound pretty simple. Now, what about if it's not a e-commerce site or a site where you can look at revenue metrics? What should you be looking at in that case?
Well, most of the sites that we build are either lead generation sites or e-commerce sites where you're measuring success in total leads, incremental leads generated, or in e-commerce sales. But there's other kinds of websites, like the site that we're on right now, Servant Therapist, right? This is a media site that's putting you in a thought leadership position that creates a lot of indirect benefits and marketing opportunities and establishes you in the marketplace as being a helpful, useful resource. Just awareness in that case. You'd probably look more just at the top of the funnel types of things. Total growth in subscribers, viewers, total amounts of traffic, month over month. But in every case, no matter what your metric, the benchmark is yesterday. Don't bother trying to find the benchmark industry or whatever. It doesn't matter. If it did exist, it wouldn't change your marketing because you're always focused on one thing, which is improving your results over the day before.
Tell us a little about choosing a web design firm or an outside agency, whether it's a 5-person company or a large company. What are the key things that we should look for? Because now the state of the art has sophisticated enough, and there's just so many choices of web shops. How do we make that decision?
Well, the ideal company can show you examples of how they have tackled challenges similar to yours for other companies and what the results were.
So you want to see the before and the after.
Exactly. What was the ROI? What was the incremental benefit for whatever cost or investment for companies in your space or with similar challenges? But there's lots of other things. You can maybe look at the company based on references is an important thing. Lots of sketchy companies in this industry. More evidence, like, do they rank? They're talking about SEO. Can they prove evidence? Demonstrate expertise in that area? Can they give you a demo of the content management system that you're considering using? You should be able to test drive the car before you buy it. There's all kinds of ways to get a good sense for whether or not this company can really show up when it comes down to it. Mostly people are happy or sad with their web design company based on how well they support them a year and 2 years later. Mm-hmm. So I would ask questions about support team.
So when you say support, what support should we be looking for? What do I want to see after the website goes live?
Well, one question goes like this. If I need some help a year, 2 years later, who do I talk to? Is it my new project manager? Is it you? Is it the sales guy? The answer should be something like this. No, we have a dedicated support team in place, a dedicated developer, and a team that's ready to help you answer the phone on the first ring and take care of whatever issues you need later on. The answer is, well, it's me, or it's your project manager, and you can talk to any of us. It's really not a great answer because those people are all going to be very busy working on other projects.
Right. Got it. And in general, have you found that it's better to do it on a fixed basis or an hourly basis? All else considered, you've done 1,000 projects. What is the optimal way to structure the financial project?
Sure. Well, web design companies do one thing: they sell time. Marketing too, right? All of these companies are just selling time. That's the only thing that we do. But how they do that, the industry standard is to make it a fixed fee or a mostly fixed fee approach. So they'll have a project-based proposal that has specific numbers and a payment schedule, and in advance what your costs are going to be. You could ask in advance, what are typical overruns? Does this tend to come in on budget? Would we have to, are you ever going to invoice me for a dollar amount more than this? And if so, under what circumstances?
Yep.
Ideally, you should hear things like, it's a fixed fee proposal. If there's ever a higher cost than what I'm proposing now, it would be something that we had agreed upon in writing. You would have signed it. That's how we know that we went outside the scope and that there's time and budget implication.
So in general, it sounds like you prefer fixed fee. Is that have you found that to work better than hourly?
It's almost impossible to sell project hourly and have someone write a blank check. People almost never do that in this industry.
Yeah, got it. So it's kind of capped unless it changes.
Correct.
Okay. Last question, I want to shift to email marketing. I know you know quite a bit about this and how it integrates with the website. What is the state of the art now in terms of email marketing, knowing how many emails we all get every day? When is it most useful? When is it most productive for people? And how does it, if I'm launching a new website, how do I make sure email is not an afterthought?
Sure. So email has to be visually congruous with the design of the site. So you want to design your email template at the same time you do the design. Also, the design of the site has to maximize the percentage of people who act. This is conversion rate optimization, like we talked about, by making sure that the email sign-up form does some basic things. It has to be visually prominent, has to set expectations about what kind of content you're going to get. You should tell people how frequently they're going to get that content, and it should give some evidence that other people do this. That's called social proof. The goal of social proof is to leverage the cognitive bias of conformity by making any other option look weird. It's like, oh, I should definitely sign up for this. 1,000 people have already signed up, and there's a quote from someone, and this looks legit.
Yep.
Now you're going to grow your list, and that's a really important thing because except for email, every source of traffic to your website has a private company in between, right? It's Google or Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. Those are private companies. Email, it's direct. It's the list you own.
Yeah.
It's a better, more sustainable source of traffic. So we should all be aggressively growing our list. Once you do, live up to the promise. Give people what they asked for, right? They signed up for a specific thing. So go deep on your content. Publish evergreen, how-to articles or original research if you can. And just make sure that you are consistent with it. Don't be hesitant to take people off the list. They want to unsubscribe. You don't want to send email to people that don't want it. So let them escape if they want to. We all get too much email. But it's a really important tactic none of us should be ignoring, and it's super high value for the subscribers and for ourselves in the long run.
Have you found it to be consistently the best customer acquisition tool and development tool over time?
It's powerful because it keeps people who've inquired once in the funnel. So as far as, for people that didn't act or didn't hire you, they might come back in 2 years and say, wow, I've been getting your articles for 2 years, and thanks so much. I learned a lot from them.
Right.
But really, for most companies, search is the best because it has intent. Search for a phrase.
They're actually searching for it.
Yep. Indicated their intent. They're looking for that thing. People searching for stuff are trying to find it. Many of those key phrases are buyer-related or money-related phrases. Yep. They land on a site that instills trust. Maybe there's videos that build up their evidence of expertise. That visitor is going to be more likely to act because they came from search as a source that indicated evidence.
Whereas email, they're already in the pipeline, already in the sales funnel.
Yeah, it's not the first touch.
Yeah.
It's not awareness. It's not the top of the funnel. It's the middle.
Yep, got it. Fantastic. Andy, we covered a lot of stuff, and I appreciate your time. How can people get in touch with you or Orbit if they want to just learn more about these 1,000 websites that you've done?
Orbitmedia.com. It's our best place to get information. /blog is where we publish our best advice. It's every 2 weeks, and that's where we put most of our marketing efforts. You can find me on any of the social networks. Look me up anywhere.
Great. Thank you, Andy.
My
Good to
pleasure.
see you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks.